Hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and I've been painting orcs for over 20 years, so you'd think that by this point I'd have painted them all. Well, this is my pile of opportunity, and there's unpainted orcs just waiting for their time. Specifically, these are the Assault on Blackreach Ork Deffkoptas. Probably not sold anymore, so I'm judging by the internet's short-term memory. I acquired these, who knows when, soaked in paint. I wish I'd have taken pictures or video back then. It was hilarious, but it was all shoved in a bag with paint pots that had burst open and dried into a solid lump. After soaking the lump in water and breaking away the pieces, putting the rest in paint stripper to try and clean them up, and using other assorted chemicals to get the best out of it, I actually found there was an entire 2nd edition missile launcher Space Marine inside the lump of paint. The 3 Deffkoptas got off lightly in comparison, but even so I went back recently to clean them up as best I could. There's a few lumps here or there, but nothing a little weathering can't hide. Assembling these is far easier than people make out. Run a thin line of polystyrene cement around the outside edge of the join, which, to be fair, is the entire model, and press the 2 parts together. Squeeze so that the cement squeezes out of the join and give it a little wiggle and hold it tight. As the solvent evaporates, the join will be stronger for that little wiggle as the material from both halves are mixed together. And the squeeze out is easy to deal with as well, just by scraping it down with a knife. For a rough and ready orc machine, it doesn't need much cleanup at all, but if you want a factory smooth perfect look, some fine sandpaper to finish that will clean it up nice and smooth. And so pretty quickly I'm onto painting, and in this case I actually have my basic scheme already laid out. Not so long ago I posted a video where I painted an orc warbike, and so I copied a lot of the process from there. Black primer with a metal dry brush over pretty much the whole thing, and then a glaze of red makes a really cool effect that I quite like. And then going around and picking out all of the details, the clothing, the skin, cables and drive belts and all sorts of other greebly bits. It does feel good to pick a model off of the pile of opportunity, but it has to be there for you to do so. There is still a pervasive idea that the models you haven't painted yet are some kind of shame, like you've failed by not painting them, which is total rubbish. If I'd have painted these Deffkoptas the moment I got them, they would have been speed painting, dry brush, brown wash, done. But by having a small and somewhat dwindling collection of unpainted orcs, I have the opportunity to pick one out and paint it whenever I like. And today I liked to paint this one. Orc skin is another example of how my painting has changed. I used to paint orc skin by base coating in a dark green and dry brushing a light green over the top. That's it, 2 steps and done. Given it's such an imprecise technique, coupled with the fact that I have never been good at dry brushing, it looks bad. More recently I paint orc skin in the same process as I paint human skin, but with greens instead of browns. The dark green base coat is the same, but then I mix a little of the lighter green in to paint a general mid-tone, skipping over just the lowest points. Then I mix some more light green for a smaller highlight, and after 2 or 3 layers I get to the highest points with just the light green. And oh wow, does it ever make a difference! My recently painted orcs look so very much better than any I painted 20 years ago. But there's a false logic that might come up out of that I want to squash before anyone thinks of it. If I was to wait for every model until later, when I'm a better painter, when I've improved, then I will never become a better painter, and I will never improve. Before all else, the mini painting hobby is a hobby. You're here to enjoy painting models, so enjoy painting models, and to do that you have to paint models, Many hobbies tend to be expensive, so buying models is a thing, and you absolutely get stuck into painting the one you just bought because you're excited about it. Push the other one aside for a few weeks, for a few months, or in my case, a decade or two, because there will be a time when you remember the excitement of when you got that previous model, and you pick it up. Today, this model. And for me, today was this Deffkopta, and the painting is now complete. I really enjoyed it because I spent the time to enjoy it. But there's something missing. The base. And Foxymits will be in the comments making fun of me if I don't make a base for it. The included base went missing some time ago, but it's the same large flying base as the Battlefleet Gothic battleships, and I have several of those spare. These are utterly terrible. They have air bubbles to make sure that they snap, the clear plastic is brittle, and they are quite thin. This is a 60mm plastic base left over from my Imperial Guard Heavy Weapons team that I used a different base for in another video. And I have some little metal poles that I can cut down to replace the snap stand. I used the last of a batch of texture paste on this already, but it really needs something more interesting to cover up this large of an area. So, quick, to the bits box. The stem of a flight stand can be hidden in one of three ways. Clear, which is usually terribly weak. You could also paint it pure black and just pretend it's not there. I don't like that any more than I like black base rims for very much the same reason, and that is that pure black is extremely visible. The third way is to include it as part of the model or part of the base. A forest base could have tree branches that the model is smashing through. A desert base could have a dust cloud following behind it. For me, I'm making a small snippet of a scrap field, and I can prop up the flight stem with some other bits of scrap that make it feel like it's part of the scene, just another metal pole littering the floor. And painting the base was quick and simple. Long ago I chose to base my orcs with a grey basing scheme as a neutral colour, but also fitting city fight scenarios that I was playing at the time. But I did use a little bit of colour, some faded green on the corrugated tin, some brown wash on the metal pieces, but really the model is where the colour is, and that colour is red. And there we go, all painted, based, and ready for a scrap. And I haven't even glued the Deffkopta to the flight stem, so it can be moved to various angles as if it's turning in flight. But also it can be disassembled for transportation. As much resin and superglue as I put on this, I don't trust it to be bumped around in a cardboard box next to a pot of paint with a loose lid. So please feel free to ask any questions in the comments down below, and pop past the description for links to all of the other stuff I get up to, and if you really must, share the video with an orc player that you know. But don't those Deffkoptas come in threes, I hear you ask? Yes, they do, and the other two are going back on the pile of opportunity. Someday I'll get to those, when it's right.